Okay, I've been asked questions about settings on my ICOM 705, so I will show you the way I have mine set up and some of the reasons. So hopefully this video will be of help, especially if you just have a new 705, haven't perhaps had one before, got one recently, or even if you haven't had a chance to go through all the settings. Okay, here's the information. The ICOM, IC-705 in particular, other radios, Active 52 Plus, have the ability to give your location with the GPS. However, as the instructions seen on the screen, should only be used in simplex mode. And if you use it through a repeater, you're going to cause a lot of interference. Let's say you set it for every 30 minutes. You're going to be tripping that repeater every 30 minutes. Probably when that happens, usually it's because you used it for simplex on a particular operation and you forgot to turn it off. So it's something you have to watch out for. It can be, well, you won't be very popular, that's for sure. So you want to go to the menu. GPS off is the option that you have. You also want to keep in mind that if you don't have the proper settings set up, you could, for example, be sending your GPS information every time you hit the push to talk. So be sure that you have set it accordingly of the instructions in the previous settings. Otherwise, this is the option where you can set it a time from 30 seconds to 30 minutes. From my experience, I found that if you're not using D-Star that often, this occasionally, and perhaps scanning a whole bunch of other FM stations or monitoring, having DV Auto Detect on could cause for it to stop on an FM channel or some frequency that is trying to decide if it's actually a digital voice signal or some sort of noise. So it can be irritating if you're listening and scanning at the same time. If you're completely digital voice only, then yeah, leave it on. So myself, I have it off because digital voice is only a small portion of my activity on the handbands. Automatic reply function. I guess it's great when someone's looking for you and wants to contact you, perhaps through several repeater systems. I have never personally used it, so for me, it's always off. Anything that's really that important, they can contact me other ways. Unless I had a system set up on a simplex frequency to monitor maybe a group of individuals, I certainly wouldn't want to be using this on a repeater system of other repeater systems other than your own. So, something you have to decide, so keep that in mind. For me, it's not needed, so I have it off at the time. It could cause a lot of interference. Okay, I believe this has an effect if you have the auto reply turned on, and I guess you receive a caller's reply, I assume, then his information could be displayed. Especially if you're monitoring and you didn't hear the voice, but you do see the screen. It's as you can see, there's usually one setting that's affected by another setting, so you have to kind of group them together to have things work the way you want it. So by default, it's on. I'm assuming that's probably what you would want when someone calls you and the auto reply and you're replying back to them automatically. Something of that sort. Most repeaters have a timer, I think 3 minutes. So if you exceed the 3 minutes, the repeater will shut down. No one's able to use it if you keep on talking. The default is 5 minutes, but I have mine set for 3 minutes. And, it might be handy if you do what you call a pocket transmission. You're handheld or you're sitting on the mic by accident there in a mobile and transmitting, locking up a repeater. So you may want to take that into consideration. Don't have it off. Set a time limit. If not 5 minutes, 3 minutes perhaps. And plus it will protect your radio from getting overheated. Auto repeater function. Default on and duplex. Myself, I use the on duplex tone, and so far I have not experienced no issues, and no issues getting to repeaters. So it's something you want to decide. It certainly is nice when you're mobile. You're not fiddling, trying to figure out if it's plus or minus duplex, or even the tones. So that's the setting I use. You have to decide what would be best for your way that you operate. DV data transmit. Manually or automatically transmit data in the DV, digital voice mode. Default is auto. I don't have this set up to use really, like with my PC or port. I believe, if I recall, I have mine set for push to talk. So if there is something that I want to send, it'll be when I'm transmitting. Again, it's a feature I really haven't played with or used yet, so you have to kind of decide whether to leave it as default, and you probably will never cause any issues. There are certainly a lot of beeps and sounds that you can have your radio making. Myself, I like silence, quiet operation, so standby beep, I usually have it off. I know I experimented a few times leaving it on. To me, alarm, high tone. It's usually, I'm not monitoring digital voice. I'm actually using it, so it's probably a function that doesn't matter for me. So if you're on FM mostly, so the setting's not too critical. But if you're not sure, I just have it off, so this way I don't get beeps and trying to figure out where it's coming from. Transmit delay in push to talk. Default 2 seconds. Myself, I have it off, 0 seconds. What I found with 2 seconds, I say I'm having a chat, I release the push to talk. If there was someone who's listening wanted to break into the conversation, I wouldn't hear it because of that receiver delay returning to receive mode. That's the only area where I kind of notice, and I like to hear whatever is there the minute I release the push to talk. So a feature that you have to decide what's ideal for you. Might explain why some people have difficulty breaking in on a conversation. Okay, on 705, next to your big VFO dial, you have a function key called XFC. I believe mine is left on default auto. Basically, if a digital voice signal comes on, it will switch. Well, let's say I'm in FM mode, it'll switch to DV or vice versa. But if you're strictly a digital voice and you don't want to be bothered by any FM, well, you can set it up so it doesn't do that. So that's about it, I think, on this one. Okay, digital repeater set. Default is on, which is what I use. And it says when accessing a repeater that has a call sign is different in the transceiver settings, this function reads the repeater's transmit and automatically sets the repeater call sign. I'm assuming the repeater has the capabilities of providing that information. I imagine the repeaters of decades ago that probably wouldn't happen. So I'm not sure what the method is on this. I never bothered to look into it. If you have info on this, let me know in the comments. I'm sure others would be interested. Okay, this is very important. Well, first of all, let's get the break scenario. Normally, you'll need this break option turned on if the station you're trying to break into are communicating using call sign squelch enabled, which I don't think most people are not using it. So, but the merge, and I believe the merge, this whole particular function, when you turn off your radio and put it back on, it defaults back to off. This is where you can really become unpopular. If you have this turned on and forget about it, and you're on a repeater system, every radio will start squawking that's listening. So if you turn it on, be sure to turn it off if you haven't recycled your radio by turning off and on. Well, this is a setting where you can have a very busy display. What is displayed when you're talking to a station or you're listening to a station, I think normal is what I usually use. The caller station call sign and message is automatically scrolled once and then disappears. The other hold and receive hold, well, especially if the whole bunch of stations on at the same time and very short transmissions, you get 2 or 3 people only talking 4 or 5 seconds and passing it over to someone else, your screen, it just gets way too busy. And also keep in mind, regardless what setting you have, if you have the call stations that you're listening to in your memory, well, it also displays that at the end. So, you don't want to have wrong information showing on the screen at the time the person is talking. So, keep that in mind. Okay, assuming your receive call sign display is not set to off, as we talked about in the previous clip, then you have these options. Off, no indicator is displayed even though the position data is included, and on, then it will display it. So default is on. So sometimes some of the settings, if you find you think you have it on, there's usually another setting somewhere else, like this one, it has to be turned on. So usually more than one setting sometimes involved to get something to work properly. I found that out. Receiver position display timer default 10 seconds. I definitely don't use hold unless you're talking to people who talk longer than 30 seconds or so. But anyways, I think I'm trying to remember what I end up setting. Maybe I left it at 10 seconds, but I even experimented at 5 seconds. I found 30 seconds was too long because it's starting to go out of sync with whoever is talking. So, yeah, this is another thing you have to play with. DV receive backlight on by default. Yes, I leave it on, especially if in the evening dim lights or in the dark for some reason. Mobile. Yeah, you definitely want to have the backlight turned on, and this way you can read in the dark. Okay, transmit call sign display. I usually have it on, and the one I usually select is your call sign. It displays and scrolls the call sign of the targeted station. I know my call sign, so I don't really need to see it. However, if you do decide to use my call sign, it will use whatever you programmed. And I think I've done that a few times, especially when there's some text attached with your call sign. So, if the call sign and name of the caller station is programmed in your memory, the program name is displayed after the call sign. So, my first name, Alex. There you go. Yeah, I think in the end I switched back to my call sign. So this way they get my call sign and my first name. Especially if you're having a chat with people you have not chat before. And when the person is mobile, it's less to remember. You have to remember the person's call sign. You have to remember the name. So some of the older folks will love that. Give them a little bit of help. So there you go. That's an idea. Okay, I've been getting requests for assistance in using terminal mode, and I may be creating a video with perhaps a little bit more detail, be more specific, I guess, on different settings. I know some have forgotten that they had to enter the server IP domain and how to enter the call sign. That has to be done with a prefix, how to be registered, things of that sort. And also, there is another setting which I believe I will display that in another video perhaps. And just to keep in mind, we're going to go off grid for a little bit. It's my favorite part. We'll have to depend on solar power, our own water source, showers, and generators if needed. So hopefully we'll have nice weather. I prefer cool weather myself in the mountains. And this way I don't have to worry about running air conditioning. Okay, until next time, it would be appreciated if you haven't done so. Thumbs up would be nice. And again, if you have any comments or questions, enter it, and we'll try to reply as soon as possible. We may be disappearing for a short period of time, so be patient. If you haven't done so, it would be appreciated. Please subscribe. And thank you for watching. Have a nice day.